Hello, so today I'll be showing you how you can use household items like tape and Vaseline to try and reduce the ants and aphids on your plants. So I've already done a video before on how to remove aphids from your plants, and I did mention something about ants and how you can try and control ants to try and stop aphids on your plants. Now, wherever you see aphids too on your plants, and not too far away, there'll also be some ants nearby. So the reason why you see ants next to aphids all the time is because ants feed off the honeydew that the aphids make, and in turn the ants will then protect them from any predators, which then causes a problem because the aphid population gets way out of control and it can damage your plants. Although ants aren't actually classed as pests in the garden, they can help aphids move around in the garden. They do that by literally picking them up and put them onto different plants so they can make more honeydew in which the ants can then harvest, and I got a good example of it here. So in the pot down here in my little apple tree, we've got quite a lot of ants, and as you can see, the ants are harvesting the honeydew from the aphids that they've just put onto my new apple tree. And this isn't good because it could potentially harm the leaves and harm the plant as well, so I need to stop this. So I'm going to be using this apple tree to basically show you the ways that we're going to be able to use tape and Vaseline to try and reduce the ant population and try and stop them from running up the tree. So this apple tree does have aphids on it. Not many of them, but there is enough on there to start causing a problem. But at the moment, there is no ants on the plant at all. So if we can get our traps set up now, it will stop any ants from actually affecting the aphids and then letting the predators kill them naturally. The first step of what we're going to be doing, we're going to be trying to stop the ants from climbing the actual tree itself. So we're going to be using our masking tape to wrap round the base of the plant. Now that we've wrapped our masking tape around the base of the plant, what we want to try and do is try and wrap it up nice and tight. Not too tight that it affects the plant, but you want to try and wrap it up to a point where the ant cannot get in underneath the bottom of the masking tape. Right, and one of the important reasons why we're using masking tape and not duct tape for this point is because masking tape isn't as sticky as duct tape. Because you don't want to damage the plant, you want to try and keep the plant alive, so using masking tape is excellent because it's not as sticky and it won't stay on the plant as long. Where masking tape is a different story because it's a bit more waterproof and basically it leaves a bit more stickiness on the plant. So I'd rather use duct tape just because it's a lot more easier and it does come off a lot easier. Right, so now that we've got this on there, this isn't enough to stop the ants fully. This is only here to protect the tree itself from what we're going to put on it. Basically what we want to try and do is use the Vaseline to create a barrier around the circumference of the tape that we just put on, to stop any ants from going up and going past it. All you do, I just got a little stick and put a bit on there, and then just rub it and create a barrier around it. Right, there you go, and as you can see, I've made a nice circumference of the Vaseline, probably a bit too much Vaseline, but it's enough to stop any ants from going from the bottom and crawling their way up to the top. This should stop them or just catch them in their place, so no ants will be able to protect the aphids at the top. Now, it's very important that you don't actually use the Vaseline on the tree itself without applying the tape, because Vaseline or grease or anything else used to try and trap the ants will potentially harm the tree. That's the reason why we put the tape on there, to stop it from doing it, because it can make it go soft, it can basically burn it when the sun's hitting it. We're just trying to stop any problems to the tree at all and trying to stop these ants. For this process, you don't actually have to use Vaseline. There are a lot better alternatives out there. There's other types of oil and grease you can put on here to stop the ants from getting there. The only reason I use Vaseline is because it's what most people got in their households anyway, and it will stop the ants getting through, but over time it might end up stopping because Vaseline doesn't last as long as other stuff. Just let me know in the comments instead what you guys would use other than Vaseline, and to help other people out on what stuff they can use to try and stop ants from getting through. So the next trick we're going to be doing is with masking tape. We're going to be doing exactly the same thing. So we're going to put some duct tape around the base of the plant. Then you want to tear off a bit of the duct tape, and then you're going to roll it up into basically like a tube, but with the sticky side outside, just like so. So it forms like a nice little sticky tube, and then what we want to do is wrap it round the tree like this. Now we've got our masking tape as the base and our duct tape as a sticky object. Ants won't be able to get underneath the masking tape, and then once they try and get to the duct tape, the stickiness will either get them stuck on it or they'll just try not to go up it at all. So this is also another good way of trying to stop the ants. So that is the two methods that I know on ways to stop ants from getting to your plants to try and stop them from protecting the aphids. You don't have to do both of these at the same time, it's just whatever you've got there. You can either use the wax method or you can use the sticky tape method to try and stop the ants. Even though this is good, there are some drawbacks and some things that we need to think about as well while doing this. While ants will try and travel up the base of the tree, if they can't get past the base of the tree, they'll try and find another way and trying to enter the plant. See this little stick here? So now if this stick had some sort of connection in between, the ants will just simply bypass this part and climb up this part here and then onto the tree itself. Ants are very smart, so they know how to basically bypass this. So that's why when it comes to my rose bush, it's impossible to use this technique for. Due to my roses having so many branches at the bottom of it, and we also got these main wooden sticks here trying to hold the rose bush up, the ants have got so many ways of trying to get up it to try and get to the aphids. So it's basically impossible to use these techniques on this type of plants. But on plants like these, where there's only one way up for the ants, it's a very good technique to stop the ants from actually getting onto your plants. But that being said as well, they can also scale up fences and other stuff like walls as well. So you want to try and get them away from everything to stop any other ways of ants getting onto your plants. Also as well, what you need to keep an eye on is how high I have made these traps up on the plant from the ground. The reason is if we have really strong wind when it comes to the Vaseline stuff, what can tend to happen is stuff can stick to the Vaseline, giving the ants a way of bridging the Vaseline trap and getting onto the tree itself. So you want to try and make your traps at a sensible height where you know no dirt or debris is going to hit it. Also, while talking about bridging, ants are very good at making their own bridges as well. They're very smart, so they're able to take little bits of stuff up and be able to make bridges on your traps to then cross over them. So it is always good to visually inspect them to make sure that the traps are still working. If not, you're just going to have to try and remove them as best you can and try and do it again. And lastly is the fact that traps, even when they are working, they will need to be replaced every so often. They don't last forever, unfortunately. And also the tree is expanding as well over time. So the tape that you've put on there will need to be replaced, otherwise it will end up strangling the tree. So it is important to replace them now and again. Keep the Vaseline or the grease fresh or the sticky tape fresh to get these traps to work effectively. And then once you start seeing the aphids start disappearing on your plant, you know that these traps have done their work, and you kind of could get rid of them, but you could just leave them on there just for peace of mind, knowing that you won't have any more problems in the future. I hope you guys did enjoy the ways on which you can try and stop aphids on your plants by trying to reduce the ants helping them. So yeah, hope you guys did enjoy.